Close your eyes. Picture a Toys R Us, the one you went to as a kid. The automatic doors slide open, fluorescent lights, endless aisles stretching further than you could see. The smell of fresh plastic, rows of action figures, dolls, Lego boxes stacked to the ceiling, bicycles hanging from rails, the sound of 100 children begging their parents for just one more thing. Pick one. Hold that image. Now picture it empty. March 2018. 735 stores across America. Shelves stripped bare. Yellow liquidation signs taped to every window. Shopping carts abandoned in empty aisles. The last Lego set sold for 40% off. Liquidation crews in orange vests dismantling what took 60 years to build. The store of everyone's childhood gone in a matter of weeks. Jeffrey the giraffe, the smiling mascot who greeted millions of children at the door, gets loaded into a dumpster outside the Times Square flagship. A father stands at the entrance with his son, watching. The boy doesn't understand why the doors won't open anymore. 33,000 employees receive the news. No severance package, no final bonus, just a letter. How does a company this big simply vanish? $11 billion in annual revenue, one of the most recognized brands on planet Earth, 900 stores worldwide, a place where generations of children experienced pure joy, reduced to Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This is not a story about toys. This is a story about what happens when finance guys get their hands on something people actually love.
The year is 1948. World War II is finally over. American soldiers are coming home. The baby boom is about to begin. 76 million children born over the next 18 years. And in Washington, D.C., a young man named Charles Lazarus, the son of a bicycle repairman, opens a small store. He calls it Children's Bargain Town. He has no idea what he's about to unleash. It starts as a baby furniture store. Cribs, high chairs, changing tables, practical things for the post-war family boom. But Charles notices something strange. Customers keep coming back, and they keep asking the same question. Do you sell toys? The crib buyers return for birthdays. The high chair families come back at Christmas. The realization hits Charles like a thunderbolt. Children keep growing, but they never stop wanting toys. Toys are recurring revenue. Every birthday, every holiday, every report card reward, every visit to grandma, Charles sees something nobody else sees. In 1957, he makes the pivot. He renames the store Toys R Us with that famous backwards R that every child learns to read before they can spell their own name. His model is radical, a supermarket, but for toys. Before Toys R Us, toys were sold in mom-and-pop shops, small stores, limited selection, seasonal inventory. You bought dolls in December and baseball gloves in June, and good luck finding anything in between. Charles Lazarus looks at the supermarket model, wide aisles, endless variety, everything in one place, and asks, why can't toys work the same way? 40,000 square feet, 18,000 different items, every brand, every category, every price point, open year-round, aisles organized by age group. The category killer is born. Toy stores that had served neighborhoods for decades start closing, first a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Charles Lazarus didn't just enter the market, he rewrote what the market was. The 1970s bring Jeffrey the giraffe, the gentle, smiling face of childhood imagination. Families drive Jeffrey's name into their GPS of memory. In 1978, Toys R Us goes public. The IPO is a rocket ship. And then comes 1982, the jingle. I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. A generation sings it before they can tie their shoes. The company feels unstoppable. And honestly, at this point, it is. The 1990s, the golden age, 1,500 stores worldwide, 70,000 employees, $11 billion in revenue. Every child in America knows the layout of their local Toys R Us by heart. And then comes the crown jewel, the Times Square flagship store in New York City. 110,000 square feet of pure toy fantasy in the center of the universe. Inside the Times Square store, a 60-foot Ferris wheel. A life-size Barbie dream house you can actually walk through. A a 20-foot mechanical Tyrannosaurus Rex that roars at children as they enter. The store becomes a tourist destination, more visitors than the Statue of Liberty some years. Toys R Us is now in 38 countries. 20% of every toy sold in America passes through their doors. They are the gatekeeper between toy makers and children. Nobody can touch them.
In 1994, Charles Lazarus steps down. After 46 years at the helm, the founder hands the keys to a new generation of leadership. He's 69 years old. The company he built from a single baby furniture store is now a global empire. But something shifts. Wall Street notices. Professional managers replace the founder's instincts, and the vultures begin to circle. Because from 30,000 feet, Toys R Us doesn't look like a beloved brand. It looks like billions of dollars waiting to be extracted. March 2005. 3 players step onto the field. KKR, Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, the private equity firm that invented the leveraged buyout. Bain Capital, Mitt Romney's firm, specialists in retail extraction. And Vornado Realty Trust, they want the real estate underneath the stores. Together, they acquire Toys R Us. The price, $6.6 billion. The method, a leveraged buyout. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Here is how a leveraged buyout works. The buyers put up $1.3 billion of their own money. The remaining $5.3 billion, borrowed. And here is the trap. The company itself owes the debt. Not KKR, not Bain, not Vornado. Toys R Us wakes up the next morning with $5.3 billion of debt strapped to its back. Annual interest payments, $400 million. Before they sell a single toy, they owe the banks a fortune. $400 million a year. Let that number settle. That's enough to remodel every store in the chain, enough to build a world-class e-commerce platform, enough to hire 10,000 new employees, enough to beat Amazon at their own game. Instead, every dollar of profit flows to the banks. Toys R Us is still profitable, let's be clear about that. The stores are making money, but the profits never reach the stores. Charles Lazarus, now in his 80s, watches from the sidelines. His creation is being bled dry. The stores begin to deteriorate. Flickering fluorescent lights that nobody replaces. Empty shelves that stay empty for weeks. Carpet that hasn't been cleaned since the 1990s. Employees stretched across 3 departments because there's no budget to hire. The best people leave. Morale collapses. Customers notice. You walk into a Toys R Us in 2010 and it feels tired. It feels forgotten. It feels like a place the owners don't care about anymore. And they didn't. Meanwhile, the world changes. Walmart expands its toy aisles, using toys as loss leaders to get families through the door. And then comes the fatal partnership. Toys R Us signs a 10-year exclusivity deal with a young company named Amazon. Amazon will be their online store. It seems smart. Outsource the technology, focus on what you do best. But Amazon breaks the exclusivity almost immediately. Other toy sellers flood the platform. Toys R Us sues, wins the lawsuit. But by then, it's too late. Amazon has already learned the toy business.
Toys R Us has to build its own e-commerce operation from scratch. In 2010, a full decade behind Amazon, the website is clunky. The inventory sync doesn't work. Customers order products that aren't actually in stock. The frustration builds. And in 2015, a milestone passes almost silently. Amazon sells more toys than Toys R Us. The category killer has been killed by the category it once dominated. September 18, 2017. Toys R Us files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, $5 billion in debt. The announcement comes just before the holiday shopping season, the one time of year when toy retailers actually make money. But suppliers panic. They demand cash up front before shipping a single doll or action figure. The shelves that used to overflow with inventory in November now sit half empty. The death spiral accelerates. March 14, 2018. The announcement nobody wanted to believe. All 735 remaining stores in the United States will close. 33,000 employees lose their jobs. No severance, No transition support, just a final paycheck and a cardboard box for their desk belongings. 1 week later, on March 22nd, Charles Lazarus dies at the age of 94. He lived long enough to see everything he built erased.
The brand doesn't die completely. WHP Global buys the intellectual property in 2021. Small Toys R Us sections appear inside Macy's department stores. A few aisles, a Jeffrey logo, a whisper of what once existed. The big box stores stay empty. Abandoned husks in shopping plazas across America. Ghosts. And the Times Square flagship, the Cathedral of Toys, becomes a Gap, a clothing store where a Ferris wheel once turned. So what killed Toys R Us? It wasn't Amazon. It wasn't changing consumer tastes. It wasn't that children stopped wanting toys. The company was murdered by its own capital structure. $6.6 billion leveraged buyout, $400 million a year in interest. The exact same pattern we've seen with Sears, with Red Lobster, with Payless, with dozens of companies that were profitable but debt-burdened until they collapsed. Toys R Us was the canary in the coal mine. And the coal mine is still operating. The same private equity firms are doing the same deals right now to companies you love. You just don't know it yet.